Now the cold cases. A staffer for a powerful Rhode Island senator murdered in cold blood.
Yeah, it was just a horrible time, and it was a summer before I started high school, June 1st of 1981.
Was it a robbery gone wrong, or did someone want the father of three silenced? It's a question that's been haunting Raymond Nelson's family for decades.
Kim Kalunian spoke with his son and joins us now live in studio with the story. Kim?
Well, Mike and Shannon, Mark Nelson is 58 now, nearly the same age his father was when he was killed. It happened 43 years ago when Mark was just 14. Senator Claiborne Pell, a powerhouse on Capitol Hill and the namesake of the Newport Bridge and the popular National College Grant Program. Pell spoke glowingly of his staffer Raymond Nelson in 1981, saying he was a truly good man who bubbled with warmth, enthusiasm, and new ideas, and a man in whose company it was always a joy to be.
My mom used to say that he was the best loved man on Capitol Hill, and yeah, she might not be far wrong in that.
Raymond's son Mark spoke to us from his home just outside of Washington, D.C. It's where his dad, a Rhode Island native, traveled to work when Pell was elected to the U.S. Senate. Raymond had previously worked at the Providence Journal, rising to bureau chief before his change of career. Mark says his dad was outgoing and friendly, but struggled with alcoholism. When Mark was 9, his parents separated, and his dad began a new relationship with a man living in an apartment here on Quincy Street in D.C. Mark remembers the last time he saw his father at a family gathering at his late sister's house.
And when he left, he didn't just say, you know, well, I'll see you guys another time, till next time. He went around to each one of us with tears in his eyes and said goodbye to each one of us, like, you know, one by one, with tears in his eyes. And when he left, my brother said, I don't think we're going to see Dad alive again.
2 days later, Mark got called to the front office of his junior high school. His mom was there to take him home early.
No one said anything on the ride there, but I pretty much knew right then that, you know, something like this had happened. And when we got home, my mom and I were sitting on the couch, and she said, Dad is dead.
Metropolitan Police declined an interview for this story, but they told us it was Nelson's roommate who came home to discover their apartment had been ransacked and Nelson was dead. Police told us no evidence proving who committed this crime had been obtained.
He was actually hit over his head with his typewriter. That was what killed him. And that makes me think that it was pretty symbolic, because, you know, he worked for the Providence Journal. He used his typewriter quite a lot. And it was, you know, I thought of that as basically a message that he may have known some information about some powerful people that they didn't want the information to get out.
Media reports at the time said police did not publicly identify the murder weapon or a possible motive. And now, with decades gone, Mark fears whoever was responsible has now died and will never be held accountable for their crime.
I would definitely like to see the case opened up again and the perpetrators caught or whatever, you know, found guilty for what they did. But I really don't think that that's going to happen.
And there is still that $25,000 reward for information that leads to an arrest or conviction in this case. If you have any information, you are urged to call the number that police have provided, 202-727-9099. For more information on this and other cold cases, or to tell us about one that you think we should cover, just head to WPRI.com. I'm Kim Kalunian, 12 News.
New at 5, a centuries-old murderer is back in the headlines this Halloween. Thomas Cornell is thought to be the only Rhode Islander executed based on the testimony of a ghost.
Yeah, it may sound like a tall tale, but it really happened. And now one of his descendants is looking to right a wrong. Our Kim Kalunian joins us from Portsmouth with his story. Kim?
Well, for people here in Portsmouth, it's a pretty well-known ghost story. But for one local man, it's a bit more personal. And now he's trying to get justice for his ancestor. Here in this historic cemetery off West Main Road in Portsmouth lies the Cornell family. All of them except Thomas Cornell.
He's under this driveway, pretty much almost exactly under that bus stop sign.
Joe Ochi owns the Valley Inn, where the original Cornell house once stood.
Especially around this time of year, a lot of the people around here are pretty aware of it.
Yeah, you're in the original house now.
Back in 1673, Thomas Cornell lived here with his family, including his mother, Rebecca. Local historian and author Rory Raven says Thomas was the last person to see Rebecca alive in her upstairs bedroom.
Thomas sends one of his sons up, and there is Rebecca's body laying at the foot of the bed, just burned horribly.
Rebecca was known to smoke a pipe, and her death was initially ruled an accident until a relative of Rebecca's came forward with new evidence.
Her brother says that he had a dream where Rebecca came to him and showed him the burns on her body and said, "See how I was burnt," which kind of makes it sound like someone did this to her. And this is apparently enough to get the case reopened. So they exhume her body and re-examine her, and they find a stab wound in her stomach.
Blame falls on Thomas, and he is tried and convicted, based mainly on what Rebecca's ghost said.
I mean, this is spectral evidence. This is the kind of thing that 20 years later would get people hanged in Salem.
The Salem witch trials resulted in more than 200 arrests and 24 deaths until spectral evidence was banned in 1693. All those accused in the witch trials have since been pardoned, but not Thomas Cornell. Raven wrote about his story in his book, Haunted Providence.
I'm reading this book, and I'm like, I recognize the name Innocence. So I looked it up, and I'm like, oh my God.
Enter Clifton Humphrey, who through a recent at-home DNA test and much online ancestry research said he's discovered he's the 8th grandnephew of Thomas Cornell.
I'm like, I can get this guy off. I'm like, because spectral evidence is not allowed.
So Humphrey penned this letter to Governor Dan McKee, noting that Cornell's execution was the only one based on evidence from a ghost. I hope you can help and correct this 351-year-old case of injustice, he wrote. Back on West Main Road, there are no signs of any specters at the Valley Inn right now, but Ochi and his son Michael say they're happy to share the space.
And I just felt someone right over my shoulder, and I just closed up and got out of here as quick as I could.
And that was Kim Kalunian reporting. We reached out to the governor's office for comment, but so far they've been unable to provide one.
Among the polished granite headstones for those gone but not forgotten lies a meager circular marker bearing only a number.
This is it right here. The number 18 marks the spot.
No name, no epitaph like the others interred at Wrentham Center Cemetery.
They like to remind you, among the living that I was once as you are now, as I am now, soon shall you be.
Raymond Rose is the cemetery parks manager for Wrentham and spearheaded the effort to identify the person buried here in a section of the graveyard called Potter's Field, where those who are unknown or without families are laid to rest.
This is section FF, and the particular lot number is 18. You can see that it says unidentified adult skeleton. And this whole process began completely by random.
Over a year ago, Rose was searching through his filing cabinets for a record.
Under U for unidentified was the card for an unidentified skeleton. So, being naturally curious as I am, I took that to the next step.
Rose's research eventually led him to these newspaper clippings from April of 1974. Hikers find skeleton in Wrentham Woods.
I was called in because I was a department photographer at the time.
Fred True was with the Wrentham Police Department.
Met up with one of the sergeants, and we went to the location and where the body was found off of Route 140 in Wrentham. There was a noose hanging from a tree, sneakers, I would call it gym shorts, some American and Canadian coins, and an empty wallet.
The bones and belongings they suspected had been there for a couple of years and offered few clues about who the man was. After spending about 2 years at a state crime lab in Boston with no answers, the bones were buried.
On the cards is a spot that indicates with an X vault. So what I'm assuming is that there's a miniature vault in here. This hasn't been touched since 1976.
That changed on Monday when Rose and members of the Massachusetts State Police and Medical Examiner's Office dug into the soil, revealing something unexpected.
A styrofoam box.
Inside that box, dirt and a plastic bag of bones. The medical examiner taking those remains to get samples in hopes of working with the lab to create a DNA profile of the person.
Now it's just a matter of identifying the skeleton within.
Rose, who recently joined the town's historical commission and credits them with helping to get the bones exhumed, is hopeful to one day replace the number 18 with a name and an epitaph.
I feel like we owe it to this individual, his family, to try to solve this mystery, maybe to give some closure.
And that was Kim Kalunian reporting. The DA's office didn't provide any additional statement today, but it will likely be some time before we have any answers. Coming up at 4:30, we'll talk more about the process that Kim saw unfold there today, and she'll check back in with us in about 30 minutes.
Now the cold cases. A Rhode Island veteran would have been turning 66 this fall, but he won't be celebrating his birthday with his family and friends.
Donald Connell disappeared without a trace, and in the nearly 40 years since he vanished, there have been few clues about where he could have gone.
Kim Kalunian joins us now with his story. Kim?
Well, this case has gone largely unreported until now, and Donald's sister is hoping that her online pleas will somehow unearth answers about where her brother went that December day. It should have been a short walk from 6 Record Street in Newport down the hill to a home on Channing. Donald Connell was on foot, making his way from his father's home to his sister's, but he never arrived. At first, the family didn't think much of it. Maybe his plans changed. But when 10 days went by, Donald's dad went to police. It was December 12th, 1986. A report we obtained from Newport Police shows Donald Connell Sr. told them he had not argued with his son, and since he last saw him 10 days prior, there had been no phone calls or nothing. Donald, known as Donnie, was 28 at the time. He had been in the Marine Corps for a few years and was currently working at a landscaping company. He had been a basketball whiz at Middletown High School and led the team to the state championships. Police reports note he had a drinking problem, and his family told investigators about a year prior to this disappearance, he bought a plane ticket to Ireland unannounced. In a police report from 2010, investigators note Donnie's relative told them she had heard rumors about his disappearance. One was a person who was spotted on the Newport Bridge and may have jumped. Or there were sightings of him in New York City. The relative told police she went to Manhattan to search for Donnie, but never found him there. In 2015, Donnie's name was entered into the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, and a representative from the agency told police they'd be collecting DNA samples and Donnie's fingerprints for their database. His sister, Anita, has taken to Facebook annually on Donnie's birthday, making a plea for answers. Off my lips and into the air is a happy birthday wish and kiss for my missing brother. I search, hope, and dream of finding you. Now, Newport Police did provide us with Donald's missing persons report, but so far have not responded to repeated requests for comment on this case. If you or someone you know knows anything about Donald Connell's disappearance, you are urged to contact police. For more information on this case and others, or to tell us about one you think we should investigate, just head to WPRI.com. I'm Kim Kalunian, 12 News.
Now the cold cases. A fire in North Providence led investigators to a gruesome scene. A woman attacked and killed in her own apartment. 24 years later, there have been no arrests.
But police say they have a critical piece of evidence that could lead them to the killer.
12 News reporter Kim Kalunian joins us now with the story of Kimberly Morse. Kim?
Well, Mike and Shannon, we traveled to meet with Kimberly's sister up at her home in Maine. The pain of the loss of her baby sister is still fresh, even after all these years. Rural roads and rolling fields.
To sit down here with a cup of tea and a good book is just the highlights of my life.
The small town of York, Maine. It's where the Morse family called home.
It's just one of those places that you're glad you grew up here.
Sandra Morse Estes was 17 and had 2 teenage siblings when their baby sister was born.
This little bundle of joy comes into our life.
Little Kimberly Morse rarely got the chance to shed a tear.
You had 5 adults taking care of this one little girl. There was somebody right there ready to pick her up and hug her, and so that was the type of start she had.
It was a start that was as innocent and gentle as one could hope for. But Kimberly's life would not end the way it began. Early in the morning of January 19th, 2000, 32-year-old Kimberly was coming back to her North Providence apartment after working a shift as a dancer at the Foxy Lady.
The fire department received a 911 call to the apartment here. They forced their way in and put the fire out. Immediately, they notified the North Providence Police Department that there was a body inside the apartment.
My understanding of it was that somebody was waiting inside the apartment, and then the minute she stepped inside the door, they slit her throat.
Kimberly was stabbed multiple times, dragged to the bathtub. Her clothes were set on fire.
One of the worst ones I've ever seen.
North Providence police declined to speak for this story, but in an interview with 12 News back in 2019, detectives said there were no signs of forced entry into Kimberly's apartment. Their list of potential suspects had more than 24 names on it. Newspaper reports from the Times said the murder weapon was never recovered, but police have since revealed they have the killer's DNA.
Whoever did it's got to be shaken in their shoes today because of all the proactive police work being done today with the technology we're using. It's only a matter of time before we come knocking.
Still, Kimberly's family has no answers about who would want to kill their beloved sister.
I want to see them face to face. I want to see what kind of animal would do that, you know? I just want to, I don't know. I can't believe that somebody would do that to her.
The photographs and memories of those happier, simpler times are what Sandra and her siblings hold on to.
You know, you can hide it and stress it down. You know, we try not to think about it, but when I think of Kim, I just have to think of her dancing on the golden streets of heaven. You know, so that's the way we think about it. So I don't get so wrapped up in the case itself. You can't live your life focused on evil.
Now, in 2014, an anonymous email to police led investigators to Michigan, where they obtained a DNA sample from a person of interest, and that allowed them to rule some suspects out. They're now working with the Attorney General's new cold case unit on this case. If you have any information about the death of Kimberly Morse, police want to hear from you. To learn more about this case and others, or to tell us about one you think we should investigate, just head to WPRI.com.
Now to the cold cases. A major break in a Providence murder a quarter century after it happened. Good evening. I'm Mike Montecalvo.
And I'm Kayla Fish. Tonight we're talking with the victim's family about how news of the suspect's arrest raises an entirely new set of questions. Our Kim Kalunian joins us now with their story. Kim? Kathleen O'Dowd Boleman was 41 years old when she was killed on March 11th, 1999. That's just one day after the newly named suspect would have celebrated his 28th birthday. Tom O'Dowd has the answer his family has been looking for 25 years. The person who police believe killed his sister Kathleen is this man, Kevin Williams.
Never heard of him before, nothing.
Now O'Dowd has more questions after Williams was arrested on Rhodes Street in Providence on Tuesday. A grand jury returning a secret indictment charging Williams with the 1999 murder of Kathleen O'Dowd Boleman. She was found strangled behind Roger Williams Middle School in Providence. Police say they believed Williams was the suspect early in their investigation, but failed to develop enough evidence to charge him at the time. The case went cold.
We were learning to live with it. We didn't think it would get solved. I thought it was just, another statistic.
Then, about a year ago, O'Dowd says a Providence police detective called him to let him know they were making progress in the case. Fast forward to Wednesday when Williams appeared in court, and for the first time, O'Dowd got to lay eyes on his sister's alleged killer.
It was tough, not getting up and doing anything, but there were several sheriffs there between all of us.
You're angry still?
Yes.
Kathleen's family says she was vibrant and larger than life, living in Providence and working as a waitress at the time of her death. Now the pain and frustration her family has learned to live with all these years is fresh again for the 7 siblings and 4 children she left behind.
They were very happy he was caught, but now it brings it all out again, and it's, brings up the whole thing all over again for these kids.
Police have not yet said what ultimately led to Williams' arrest or what potentially motivated the crime. Williams is currently being held without bail and is awaiting a hearing later this month. I'm Kim Kalunian, 12 News.
$500,000 is being funneled into Rhode Island to help the state solve cold cases. Lawmakers announcing today that the state attorney general's office is getting a $500,000 federal grant from the U.S. Department of Justice for its closure project. That money will help strengthen the state's DNA evidence processing and help investigators find suspects in unsolved murders and missing persons cases. The Department of Health will also receive some money to analyze DNA in cold cases.